Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Running the Gauntlet here in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3. Today is the penultimate installment of this series, which brings us to the level 240 All Hail Doom Gauntlet run. This one is pretty lengthy, despite it only having 5 different sections to go through, but we are going to talk about what each of those 5 sections entails, as well as how to best plan for getting the full clear condition rewards. So strap in, make sure you like the video if you enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily content. So the first section of this fight is going to involve a confrontation against the Fantastic Four, all at the same time. So that is going to be Thing, Human Torch, Invisible Woman, and Mr. Fantastic. And you do need to take out these 4 characters before the final 2 bosses of this run spawn in. Now, we are currently working our way through the members of the team, and I was a little bit surprised myself, but the first character that ends up going down is actually Thing. I figured he would have been the bulkiest one sticking around for the longest amount of time, but that is not the case, as he is currently sitting at the lowest, and this last dash attack is going to do him in. So that takes Thing down, and now we are just left with the remaining 4. I think Sue, or the Invisible Woman, is going to go next, which she does, and that just leaves us with Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch. And because the Human Torch has a lot of increased movement speed, he can be a little bit difficult to track down, and Mr. Fantastic has large hitboxes that tend to push you away from him as well. So you want to keep that in mind as you're fighting into these opponents here. But Mr. Fantastic is going to be the 3rd member of the team to go down, and then Mr. Fantastic follows shortly thereafter. Upon taking them out, we will have the appearance of Annihilus, and he does bring with him a couple of his insectoid counterparts, which they just prove to be a little bit of a nuisance and do contribute in a minimal way. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit later. And we really just need to get him down to about that 55-60% health mark, which is indicated at the top of his screen with that health divider. So we'll lay into him with a couple of synergies, and we get him to that health point there, which is good. That triggers the second phase of the fight, which actually spawns in the final boss of this run, which is going to be Dr. Doom. And honestly, detonate all of your extreme attacks just right onto Dr. Doom's face. He hits pretty hard and can be quite annoying, and as long as you unleash your extreme attacks and have a decently high level team, you'll take him down in one fell swoop, leaving you just with Annihilus as the last character to take down. You'll see that Annihilus is a little bit trickier to nail down because he is highly mobile as he runs around. You may be able to line up your attacks where Dr. Doom and Annihilus both get stuck in your extreme attacks when you detonate them, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world, as you should have plenty of time to take on this challenge here. Dashing into Annihilus again should get us to stagger him out. I'll switch over to other members of my team to trigger in some of their synergies. We've got him down to that last 10% of his health or so. He does provide some highly evasive maneuvers here as we continue to fight into him. He flies around, has this animation where he flies across the battlefield as well, which makes things a little bit difficult, but he doesn't tend to do too many of those aerial style attacks back to back, so you do have time to layer into him and track him down in the meantime. And this last dash attack we do ought to do him in as soon as he lands in here. And just like that, we have Annihilus taken down, and that is the first section of this fight cleared. Now, the second phase of this gauntlet is a run against the members of the DLC expansion, the Rise of the Phoenix. So you'll face off against Iceman, Cable, Gambit, and Phoenix. And upon defeating these 4 characters, you will trigger a 5th boss to spawn in, which is Dark Phoenix. In this exact same arena. And a quick side note while my team is layering into these guys, this arena actually has components from a lot of the different realms that you experience from the main story quest floating around there in the background. You can see the Castle from Hell, you can see over here there's also the Avengers Tower, and there's actually a Black Panther statue hanging out around here somewhere as well, and also some of those temples or gates from Shadowland, or the Shadowland Temple. But we've got a couple of those opponents taken down. Cable is down for the count, as well as Phoenix. And Phoenix is probably the one most important to take down, though not the end of the world if you don't. She just has the aura that allows her to heal up the members of her teammate, where Iceman has the ice aura, Gambit has the fire aura, and then Cable has the electric aura. And with one final synergy attack here, we've got Gambit taken down, which is the last of that core 4 off the start here, which will trigger in the fight against Dark Phoenix. And this is fairly similar to the fight that we see against her in the previous section, or in the culmination of the Rise of the Phoenix Gauntlets, where there will be a couple of Danger Room hazards that pop up. She herself has a very high amount of health, and does have the protective Danger Room shield generators that pop in to protect the last 10% of her health pool. Though, if you do plan it accordingly and detonate your extreme attacks right on top of each other, you may very well be able to take her out before those protective bubbles pop in and take effect. But that did not happen for us on this run, so we do have the unfortunate task of layering into those and taking them down. And it's just a matter of rinsing and repeating a couple of heavy attacks with Thanos Infinite, as well as a few synergies with other members of your team here. And trying to avoid getting caught in that large vortex that Dark Phoenix has, because it is a very devastating attack if you get caught in it for an extended period of time. So, last thing we're looking to do here is take down the final shield generator. Thanos Infinite should be able to handle that. I may switch over to Wolverine for the final hit here, but with one last dash attack from Thanos Infinite here, we do collide into Dark Phoenix and take her out as well. Which brings us to the third section of this gauntlet, which is going to be a sequence where we need to defeat all of the enemies. There are a couple of these large insectoid beetle scarabs from the Dark Dimension, all of which have the infection attribute, which means that if you spend an extended period of time next to them, you will yourself become infected. And that serves as a benefit and a detriment, as you can heal back damage that you've taken, but it also perpetually drains your health until all of the cursed enemies have been defeated. And if you've watched the whole series, you're familiar with this mechanic at this point. That takes down the remainder of those opponents there, and it actually causes the Marvel Knights to spawn in, all 4 of them. And the only one that presents a real troubling aspect here is the actual confrontation against Morbius, because he has the poison attribute present as well as the cursed attribute, so he will cause you to become infected if you're not careful as well. And I'm unfortunately taking more damage than I would like to, so I detonate Thanos' extreme attack a little earlier than I normally would, because I needed to desperately heal back a lot of that damage I was taking from Punisher. His sniper attack is devastating if you get caught in it sequentially, which he does tend to rinse and repeat that attack a couple of times in rapid succession. So we're looking to take him out as quickly as we can, as he is by far the biggest source of damage output from a range, which is unfortunate because he doesn't tend to perform that well when he's a member of your team, and I really wish that he would. We've got him taken down, though, and Moon Knight goes down as well, so the last boss character we have is Blade, and that's just a matter of rinsing and repeating some of those dash attacks and heavy attacks from Thanos Infinite, as well as layering a few of our synergy attacks in from the rest of our team. The fourth section of this gauntlet is a boss rush, and this will entail every single boss that is contained within the main story quest, or at least the major bosses from this section. So of course we start out with Ronan that we'll need to take down. We'll then transition over to Kingpin and layer through the remainder of those bosses. Each of the bosses in this section have a pair of grunts that spawn in along with them, and they also have the curse attribute applicable to them as well. So you will spend basically the entire section of this part of the gauntlet run with that infection present. So just keep a pendant eye in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you see someone getting too low, swap over to them, throw a couple of your synergy attacks out, and that will allow you to heal up And you see that that's what I'm actively seeking to do there with Wolverine. And I'll probably do some more healing with them periodically throughout this fight with the extreme attacks that I have at my disposal. And you'll see that these get detonated off right now to heal up the remainder of my team. And here comes Wolverine to top off his health as well. But because this is fairly linear and predictable, I'm going to take a quick aside to talk about the clear conditions which you are looking for through clearing out this rift. The first one, of course, is clearing out all 5 sections of the Gauntlet once, and that will allow you to get the initial clear as well as the ability to loop back through and run the Gauntlet repeatedly should you need to do so. The second criteria is going to be using your extreme attacks a total of 50 times. That's going to be detonating the extreme attacks of your entire squad a total of 12.5 times. Because 10 detonations would be the 40 that you need, and then you need an additional 2 detonations and 2 more members of your team. But you want to really detonate your extreme attacks all together anyway, because it is by far the best method of damage output that you can achieve in these type of circumstances here. The third clear condition we're looking for is defeating 450 enemies, and this section is actually one of the best sources for that just because of the increased amount of grunts that are brought in with each of the boss characters as they are summoned in. I ended up running this gauntlet twice back to back in order to meet that clear condition, and that I didn't even run it to its full completion twice. I just got to this section total of 2 times, and that was really all I needed there. And then the last thing that you need to keep in mind is you need to get a total score of 1 million or more for that last set of clear conditions, and that is doable. You've just got to run that gauntlet enough times until you eventually hit that score qualifier. But you see here that we have Ultron taken down and a couple of the remaining mini-bosses to go. We're not even at the midway point just yet. We've got Magneto who spawns in here, and I don't really appreciate how the time continues to tick down on our timer as we fight into these characters, but I honestly don't need the whole 15 minutes to take out the characters that were given to take them down. Magneto can be very annoying because he has attacks that will keep you locked into a stun loop, especially with the different attacks that he has where he summons the rubble and shoots them in a rapid sequence right into your face there. But we do just about have him taken down, and we will need to attack into him with a couple more of our synergy attacks here. Thanos gets him locked into position, and then we will use a heavy attack from Thanos Infinite there to finish him off. We then transition over to Loki, and Loki's fight looks basically the same as it does without having the midway stall point, which I very much appreciate. And we end up taking him completely out with our extreme attacks there, so nothing to really worry about on that front. We then move right along to Maximus, and he is annoying to say the least, but he is very straightforward as he has one of the lower health pools of the opponents which we would face off against. So we'll layer into him with a couple more attacks, dash around, do a few more heavy attacks with Thanos Infinite here, and make sure that we have him taken down. We will then be taken into the next boss, which is going to be MODOK, but we'll touch on him when we get a little bit closer to his fight section as well. I periodically set up these orbs of health replenishment by Thanos Infinite there, mainly because he is the most sustainable out of our crew with that health replenishment there. And as we lay into Maximus with a few more basic attacks, we get him taken down as well. And as promised, we see MODOK come around here next. He can be very annoying, but again, the caveat with all of these fights is though most of the bosses within the confines of the story quest have multiple phases, these ones just have a one-time engagement where you need to take them down. And I tend to switch over to my other members of my team and throw out a couple of synergy attacks because they will more efficiently stun out the main boss characters and allow us to take them on pretty easily. The last of the main bosses before the final confrontation is going to be Red Skull, and he's honestly a joke. He is such a weak boss character that they threw him in here just because they felt like they needed to have someone. And the final two bosses come in tandem. That will be Thane, who has the aura that will heal a portion of the damage he deals to you back to himself. And then we have Thanos Infinite, who has the curse active on him. So I do detonate my extreme attacks as quickly as I can to get as much damage off on both of them. Thanos does take more damage than Thane does, but that's because Thane, being a larger boss character, does have an overall larger health pool that we have to deal with and keep in mind. But we do just about have Thanos down, which means that once he is finished off, we will no longer need to worry about the curses and the infection, as we will be cured of that ailment and just have to focus on taking Thane down at that point in time. And once Thanos is gone, you'll notice that Thane does tend to summon in a couple of his alternate reality clones with a couple of different attributes from the curse section. But at this stage, we're really just looking to finalize the confrontation and take him down quickly and efficiently to move on to the fifth and final section of this Gauntlet run. And just layering into him with a couple of different extreme attacks, and our abilities and synergies will be more than enough to finish him out. And with a final synergy attack there, we have Thane completely finished out, which ends this section of that Gauntlet. Which brings us to the final section of our Gauntlet run, which is going to involve us confronting 7 different bosses. This will include each of the members of the Black Order in the same order that they appear. So first facing off against Ebony Maw, then moving along to Supergiant, Cull Obsidian, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight. And once those 5 members of the Black Order are gone and taken down, we will then transition away from the main story quest bosses and fight God Emperor Doom. And that includes his Avenger holograms, as well as the final confrontation against the Celestial, which, once you know how that fight works, you really don't need to worry about it too much. Personally, I think I made a slight miscalculation here using my extreme attacks against Supergiant, as she's not the most annoying of the bosses, and I would rather have saved that extreme attack for Cull Obsidian, because he packs quite a punch and is the scarier of the members within the Black Order Gauntlet run. So we take Supergiant down, and that spawns in Cull Obsidian. Now, it is important to note that as far as I can tell, these characters don't have their outright Power Stone or Infinity Gem enhancements, but Cull Obsidian packs a punch either way because he is a very large opponent that has big hitboxes, large sweeping moves that take him all the way across the arena, and projectile attacks as well with that terrifying battle axe and the energy beams and rays that come out of it as well. Laying into him with one final set of synergy attacks, though, will have him taken down, and we will then move on to the fight against Corvus Glaive. Now, Corvus does still have his ability to trigger into the Reality Stone, so you want to keep that in mind if you don't take him down quickly and efficiently. But apart from that, you really don't need to worry a whole lot about him in particular. We'll lay into him with a couple more synergy attacks. That'll stagger him out, allow us to get some meaningful damage in. And he does tend to have a couple of those attack animations where he will slam down into the ground and kind of stagger you out. He also dashes around a little bit as well, and then periodically jumps very high up into the air with what you see there. He has his teleportation attack where he throws his glaive out across the room and then layers back into you, but he is now down for the count and out of the way. And the last opponent we need to take on is Proxima Midnight. And she, you know, you've seen this fight a million times before with the many different Gauntlet runs and even the main story quest, so we just need to layer into her and make sure that we can defeat her quickly and efficiently as well. You'll also see that I tend to switch over, as a general rule, I tend to use Thanos Infinite for staggering out the opponents, but then quickly switch over to other members of my team to employ the synergy attacks, because even though Thanos Infinite is powerful, you can't rely on him to completely clean sweep the opponents that you're facing off against. Now, my advice is hold on to your extreme attacks to make sure that you have them online and ready to go here against God Emperor Doom. But do not detonate them right here off the start of the fight. You'll want to take him down that first 30% of his health, 35% of his health into the second phase, because this first phase, it's really straightforward and his attacks are quite predictable. The difficult part of the confrontation against God Emperor Doom comes when he goes into his second phase right here and summons in the holographic Avengers, that being Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor. So here you will see me hold off on my extreme attack again, because I'm looking for one specific attack animation from Doom, and it's this one, where he hauls the souls of those opponents in, and that is the easiest that fight has ever looked, and it's generally not that much of a cakewalk, especially if you're taking him on head first. This brings us to the culmination of this boss fight, which involves a fight against the Celestial. I recommend bringing the opponents into the center of the arena. That way you can keep them localized, keep your eye on them, and then you have easy access to the rockets that they drop, which are used to take down the Sentinel as we face off against him. And you'll see that there is a couple of auras that are left down here on the ground that can be a little bit devastating, but it's not the worst in terms of the attacks that the Sentinel can throw, or the Celestial can throw out at you. If I've been saying Sentinel, I apologize. That is indeed a Celestial, and he is terrifying. This one is more of just an inconvenience. He doesn't do a lot of damage with this attribute. It just disorients you and makes it pretty difficult to find your way around. And we're now at the phase where I'm layering as many of these rockets into the Celestial as we can, because this section will allow those rockets to deal a bit more damage. You do want to be cautious and keep an eye on how he's doing in replenishing his stagger, because as soon as the Celestial recovers, he will end up recovering back into this mode where he will heal a great portion of his health back, but you can counterbalance that with the rocks that are brought through by the insectoids. And there, as he detonates his healing animation, that will completely take the Celestial down and put him down for the count, which means that we are done with this run and what you need to know about it. So thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, again, please feel free to leave a like. Don't forget to comment and subscribe if you're enjoying this as well. We will do the culmination of this Gauntlet series next Wednesday, because somebody stole my New Game Plus world record, and I'm taking it back live on Twitch this Saturday. So if you want to see that, make sure you check the link to my Twitch channel in my description down below. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.